Hello again, I'm back. Please excuse my face and my hair. I didn't really feel like getting ready today. I'm packing to go on a day trip tomorrow, so didn't feel like it. I'm doing the last video of this series. This is the recovery part. Let's just get into it. So they make you wait in labor and delivery, at least at the hospital that I went to. They make you wait if you had an epidural until it wears off and you can walk on your legs, and then they make you go to the bathroom. And this first going to the bathroom experience is quite a lot. By the way, if you don't want to know gross details about me, I suggest you don't watch this video. Anyway, they have you go to the bathroom and they give you these postpartum undies. They look like fishnet. They're huge, but they're comfortable. And they have to be, because they give you this giant pad because you're bleeding. You have to feel your legs if you have an epidural to make sure that they're not numb anymore, but of course they still walk you to the bathroom and make sure you're not going to collapse. You're unhooked from monitors and everything. I'm still hooked to an IV. Then they show you how to use this squirt bottle thing, and that is the way that you're wiping for the next 6 weeks. So then they moved me up to postpartum in a wheelchair, and when I got there they immediately hooked me up to a fluid IV, and then I would say about maybe every hour or half hour, I'm not sure, they check the pad to make sure that you're not hemorrhaging. They also do this thing, I'm not sure if I talked about it in my last video, but they massage your uterus to make sure that it's shrinking down properly, which is very painful after your epidural has worn off and all that. Your stomach, and they violently massage you for like 30 seconds and you're just screaming and they feel really bad. I don't really remember a whole lot after that besides my fiance going and bringing me pizza. That's what I wanted for my first meal after. And we were really struggling with swaddling. I think we asked like every nurse in there how to swaddle the baby. Then they told us that we had the opportunity to give the baby to nursery care for around 3 hours, the timing in between from eating, because they want, if you want to be breastfeeding, bring him back to me. So they said they will give him his first bath in nursery care if we ask him to. So we did, and I think we did that around midnight, and they came back with the baby and he was all clean and everything around 3 o'clock in the morning. Early the next morning, I remember one of the doctors that delivered came in really early, like before the sun even had risen, and I was dead asleep when they came in, and she was asking me questions. I do not remember any of the questions that she asked me except for, do you want to go home today? And I said, I have no idea. And then she left, and then later they brought me breakfast, which I was really happy about because I had coffee. They brought me a little cup of coffee, and that was like my joy. It made me so happy. Then they asked me if I wanted to have any pain medication. They had already prescribed me 2 different pain medications, but they hadn't given me any of them. One was, I think, just Motrin, like a strong Motrin, and the other one was some sort of narcotic. And I didn't feel any cramping or anything at the time, so I said no. Why take something if you don't need it? And then somebody came in and talked to me about staying another night because we did want a circumcision for him. The only way we could do that is if we stayed another night, because he would get it later that day, and then we would stay and leave the next day. I still don't remember a whole lot. I was still very out of it. You feel very, very out of it. I felt like I had been picked up from my life and dropped into a totally different one, which of course, duh, like I had a baby. but like I did not feel like myself at all. My mind was such a fog, and it was like that for maybe 4 weeks. I wasn't myself. I don't think many people knew that, but I just didn't feel like myself at all. Later, we started getting visitors. We got a lot of visitors. I think too many. Honestly, I think it was very overwhelming, the amount of people that we had in the room at one time. And that's something that I wish I would have had more, like I would have taken more control of. But what's done is done. The day of discharge, what was funny, it was the day before, I had already taken 2 showers. And by the time of discharge day, a nurse came up to me and asked me if I wanted to take a shower. And I said, well, I just did. Like, I had just changed into my going home outfit and I was showered. And she was like, you weren't supposed to be showering by yourself. And nobody ever told me that. So if you go through this, make sure that you ask if you're supposed to. I thought that was kind of funny because I didn't see any problem showering by myself, and honestly I think that would have been more of a pain to have somebody trying to help me. And then the person comes up to do birth certificates and all that paperwork. So we did that, and then we went home. Well, the overall recovery for me, the night we got home, I started having major cramping, and remember that I had said no to taking any medications or taking any medications home with me. Major cramping, and I was freaked out because I honestly didn't expect that. I thought it would have happened a lot sooner. So I was like, oh my gosh, should we go back to the hospital? I need some sort of medications, but it went away in like an hour. But what sucked is we had more visitors again. And so I was going through that while we were having visitors. So then you're bleeding on top of all of this in your giant granny panties. And you're bleeding. For me, I had to take the pad out and change it every 3 hours for a week. After that, it was maybe, I don't remember, maybe a couple times a day I had to change the pad out, but it was like that for about 4 weeks, so 5 weeks total of bleeding. So after I had given birth, the doctor said there was no damage to my urethra, so I shouldn't have any bladder problems continuing on, but at this point, I don't believe him. I had no control over my bladder. I had towels in my bathroom all over the place because of this, because you would have to go to the sink, like while you're like rushing to go to the bathroom, you had to go to the sink, start hot water, fill up this little squirt bottle while you're waiting, and you have to pee so bad, and then I just peed myself several times, so that's why I put towels down. I guess looking back on it now, I think I did have like some sort of postpartum depression. I was very irritable. People pissed me off. Things pissed me off like way too easily, way easier than they used to. Yeah, I had no like sense of control with my temper. I'm sure I wasn't very nice to be around. I'm sorry, not really, but yeah, looking back on it, don't think that you're immune to postpartum depression, because it is a real thing. And the pediatricians will ask you about it too, so be prepared for that. So my cousin had told me that she was sore for 3 weeks, and I didn't believe her. Oh my god, I should have believed her. I was sore everywhere for at least 3 weeks. But what the major problem was is I've had 2 back injuries in my life before this, and I had back labor, so I think the combination of all of that made my back pain so intense for about a month, 4 weeks. So intense, like I was limping because one side of my back hurt, the side that's been injured. And when I would walk, I would limp, and people would ask me, what's going on with you? And I thought my hips were out of alignment. It was awful. I almost think that was worse because it was, and even just laying down, I was in pain. I did throw up a couple times after giving birth. One of them I really do think was food poisoning though. But I have no rhyme or reason why that happened. And then at 6 weeks, I went in for my checkup. They told me that I had a little suture left, and they offered to tweeze it out for me. And I said, heck no, if it's going to dissolve itself, I'd rather not have that tweezed. That's, they do a whole smear. If you are breastfeeding, they will check your nipples for cracking or bleeding. But other than that, it wasn't too intense. Of course, they ask you about postpartum depression, and I lied for every single time somebody asked me about it. So now, 2.5 months later, the only issue that I'm having is my bladder, and that's why I believe that something did happen to it, because I have to wear a liner constantly. If I sneeze or cough too hard, I pee myself. It's just, I don't know. And I asked about it at my 6-week appointment, and they just said do Kegels. And I'm like, oh my god. I didn't talk about any of the breastfeeding stuff that happened to me in the hospital or in my recovery, because I would like to make a video about that in the future, but like I said, it'll probably be a while. Anyway, I do have a couple more ideas for videos. Just let me know if you have any ideas for me. Let me know. And I guess that's it. Thanks.